and welcome to today's edition of SOSI's Concepts, where we're going to be exploring Section 1.2, SubObjective Positions. There's a difference between what goes on and what we see. For every position, there's the reality and the point of view. These point of views comes from how we filter what we see. This relationship is much like an anchor in a boat. The anchor is what we call the objective reality, and the boat is the subjective reality. In objective reality, the anchor holds down the boat to a certain area. Because of the anchor's chain, it can only go so far, left, right, sideways, wherever. But because of the water and the waves, the boat will always float some degree this way or some degree that way. And there's always going to be different ways we can view a certain position or certain conditions. Now, where's the opportunity in that? Given that that's the situation, the opportunity is, of course, finding different insights into the subjective reality. Of course, gathering a bunch of different subjective views tells us a lot more about what the objective reality really is. But not only that, but finding key things in the objective reality that others don't see is also our opportunity. And that's one thing that makes the Warrior's Rulebook something that it is. Because we can see complex systems everywhere. We can see everything that's going on around us in our personal life and our business life and any kind of life that we have ground on. And that's one thing that makes Sun Tzu's Warrior's Rulebook as special as it is. Because given the fact that in our business life or personal life or whatever life we're in, we can be able to make better decisions about what to do about big things, small things, all kinds of things, because we're able to use the right mental models to filter our situation. 1.2.1 Competitive Landscapes. Just like outside right behind me, I don't know if you've been looking out my window or not, but outside right behind me, there's cars going down the highway. And when I say highway, that sounds like a glorified term, but it's not like some kind of super highway or something. But that's the point of reference. You'll see cars going by all the time, but that's the main point, that the competitive landscape is always forming and shifting and moving around due to the changes in the climate. Because things are always changing, and since the competitive landscape is made of people, the ground itself and the landscape itself is always changing and reforming. Given that, our opportunity is to be able to find balance in this ever-shifting landscape. Some examples are, if someone were to quit their job, then the opportunity is that they need to hire someone else. That could be opportunity to be hired in that job. Another example is if someone were to devote less time studying, and you're that person's friend, then that means there's more of an opportunity for you to socialize and interact with that person. However, those things are what I like to call one-dimensional. They only see things in the fact that somebody left and somebody's going to be coming in. It seems like everybody's, I guess, getting over the leftover sandwich kind of thing. The thing is, the ground, people, everything, it's all changing and shifting in so many directions and ways that the ground is never the same. Whenever suppliers, for example in a business sense, whenever suppliers, customers, and businesses are all shifting and moving around, we're coming up with not just positions that need to be refilled, but new positions, new ground entirely that need to be filled. So our opportunity is always filling in and finding those opportunities, as well as finding the balance to balance out these shifts that are going on. And of course, understand competitive landscapes as just that they're landscapes. Just like outside of me that there's a landscape itself, in competition, we have to be able to see those things as landscapes. 1.2.2 Exploration and Exploitation. Exploitation has a couple different kind of meanings that can come to it. In order to really define exploitation, exploration, we actually have to define boundaries. See, boundaries is what makes the difference between the two in competition. We have a certain set of limitations and resources and stuff within our ground that make up the boundaries of our position. Within those boundaries, we use exploitation, or we use and gain the benefit of the ground that we're on. The other side of things, though, is exploration. Whenever we cross those borders of the boundaries that we have, we find that we're exploring and on new ground with the possibility of new resources. The Sun Tzu's Warrior's Rulebook article and this one illustrates finding a restaurant. Exploitation teaches us that we already have restaurants that we know about and we've been to before. Otherwise, making the decision about which restaurant to go to is pretty simple. Depends on what we're in the mood for, what we want to pay, things like that. However, though, the problem is if we're always exploiting, that's the thing, we have to find the balance between the two, exploration and exploitation. If we're always exploiting, then our eating experience is never going to get any better, unless if, to say, the restaurant were to improve, which might be a rare occurrence. Then, of course, is exploration. when we explore, then we're able then to find new and better restaurants and find out more about the ground around us, giving us access to more and better resources. However, though, if we're always exploring, then our eating experience is going to be on average. So we have to find the difference between the two. Otherwise, in our lives, we have to be able to make the best out of what we have in our current position, which will generate the resources for us to be able to explore and find better positions that offer better alternatives. Over time, we can make significant progress in our lives, and recognizing the difference between both and the balance between the two is of great importance. To find out more about these things, always check out the rules to these articles of which I'm talking about. I explain it in concept form, but it explains the actual rules and defines the nature of the concept and the rules for taking advantage of the opportunity. And then 1.2.3, position complexity. Things all around us are complex. There's always, like we said before, shifts and things going on. Ground's always shifting. There's always different viewpoints to something. There's always just so much complexity and strategy. And I'm actually going to read what I wrote down before I started recording this, because what I wrote really describes the opportunity here. Our opportunity is to recognize fundamental factors and patterns to give us deeper insight into complex systems, rather than impose our own rules. And what that means is, first of all, fundamental factors. In every complex system, and we'll get into some of this stuff in the following concepts. But for example, the 5 elements of a strategic position. First of all, there's so many different kinds of information we can find out about positions, so much specific details. However, Sun Tzu offered that we can offer all that information into 5 different categories, 5 different folders, if you will, for sorting out all this stuff, to help us be able to make better comparisons about the alternatives that we have. That's actually in the next concept. But to get a crash course of the 5 elements of a strategic position, you can look at this video here. So it's all made of fundamental factors. That's the basis behind how the system works. Not only that, but it's also made of patterns. All these things follow specific logic to it, that if we can find these patterns, it's going to give us a deeper and better insight into what's really going on in this complex system. And all this is, of course, to give us that deeper insight. See, going back to what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, going back to what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, is that deeper insight. Having a deeper insight, or just having a better insight of this complex system, is what it takes to be better decision makers, as well as just to be better in comparison to other competitors. And of course, we don't want to impose our own rules. Imposing our own rules is really just going to create a mess because it's against the laws of nature. For example, we can take this into government, and I actually think there's an article in section 2 which illustrates government needing to stay grounded, otherwise stay grounded by listening. They keep their knowledge closest to reality as possible so they can make better decisions about laws and stuff to impose, which will fit how the nature of things work. I relate it to this because given in a capitalist society, people are always following their dreams, the ground's always shifting and changing, and there's always different views of different groups and people and certain things in the environment. Being a government leader can definitely get pretty complex and definitely confusing. So to make better decisions, if you follow this rule for handling complexity, which the more specific rules you can get into by reading the article, by finding those fundamental factors and patterns, you're able to make better decisions about what to do to better represent the people that you represent. Since we're all decision makers on something, we can all use these same things here to be able to give us better decisions to improve ourselves over the future by simplifying all this complexity, by being able to understand the different views of positions, to be able to understand the difference between exploring and exploiting, and of course the competitive landscape. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more videos, you can check out the following page that'll be at the end of this video. Please definitely give me feedback, give me comments, like it, subscribe. Definitely want a lot of positive feedback if you enjoyed it. And if you wanted some other comments of things that I can improve upon, just go ahead and feel free to tell me, message me or comment, whatever. I'm really looking forward to building this and sharing Sun Tzu's Science of Strategy. And don't forget to check out sunsuzscienceofstrategy.org to check out the different games, PDF files, books, and of course Warrior's Rulebook article to learn more about Sun Tzu's strategy. Well, without much more to say, this is Mr. Balderdash signing out.